If there's one style that truly belongs in a thrift store, it's cottagecore.
Today I'm breaking down the 3 main elements of cottagecore, what to look for when thrifting, and how to style these pieces to bring that cozy cottage feeling into your own space. So what really defines cottagecore? Cottagecore is a romantic, nature-inspired aesthetic rooted in nostalgia, slow living, and collected domestic beauty. Think sun-washed interiors, vintage details, natural materials like wood and stone, and of course, florals. Lots and lots of florals. So with all this in mind, how do we thrift this style? I like to say that if it looks like it belongs in a cottage, it probably counts. That said, there are 3 elements that consistently define this aesthetic, and knowing what they are makes thrifting a whole lot easier. The easiest place to start is color. Cottagecore leans into muted, organic countryside tones, the kinds of shades you'd naturally see in rural landscapes. Think sage green, buttery yellow, dusty blue, lavender, soft pink. You'll also see lots of creams, off-whites, and rich warm woods. You'll find these soft countryside shades in all shapes and sizes at the thrift store. Things like linens, artwork, vases, candles, and don't forget to check out the dishware section. Cottagecore really romanticizes domesticity, so stacked plates, tea sets, and other serving pieces are often displayed in hutches or on open shelving. Last week, I came across this lovely gravy boat. The white porcelain and delicate blue detailing just screamed cottagecore. There were also so many beautiful vintage plates. Okay, I have already spent like 10 minutes in the plate aisle and I just keep seeing these gorgeous floral ones. This is so pretty for spring. I also just love this. I'm really tempted to get this. Oh, 99 cents. I ended up bringing home this beautiful buttery yellow one along with this one that has those soft touches of pink and lavender. I love how feminine and elegant they feel, and those countryside colors really pop against the darker wood tones in my space. And I'll admit, this was a bit of an impulse buy, but look how adorable this little off-white ceramic basket is. Definitely looks like something you'd see in a cottage. Smaller pieces like this are the perfect way to add charm and personality without overwhelming a space. They're subtle, versatile, and easy to style almost anywhere. And when you're thrifting for color, try to focus less on perfection and more on what naturally draws you in. Here's a little thrifted mood board in some of those country shades so you can see how they work together. Remember, cottagecore is rooted in calmness and cohesion. It's really about building a palette that feels soft, intentional, and harmonious within your space. Now, the cottagecore aesthetic really romanticizes time. It thrives specifically off pieces with history and character, aka authentic vintage. Anything that looks like it could have been passed down for generations. Think of those antique hutches, the classic silver sets, the timeless traditional rugs. Even small things like vintage books and oil lanterns are perfect for adding some vintage charm into your modern decor. Recently, the Mission Thrift Store had this huge promotion on all of their vintage stuff. There were endless racks of clothes, linens, wool blankets, and the list goes on. Also, can we talk about this wooden cabinet? It wasn't for sale, but look how gorgeous it is. Okay, now this wooden tray immediately caught my attention. Carved wood detailing is such a natural fit for cottagecore because the aesthetic leans heavily on organic materials and traditional craftsmanship. This tray is a lot more expensive on the marketplace and it looks to be vintage from the 1960s. A tray like this is incredibly functional and versatile. You can use it to anchor objects on a coffee table or console, incorporate it into a tablescape, even simply leaning it against a backsplash or shelf adds depth and texture. What a steal for only $5.49. My jaw was on the floor when I saw this beautiful traditional rug. It was in incredible condition and had such a romantic old world charm to it. Traditional style rugs are used constantly in cottagecore because they instantly make a room feel warm and grounded. And just when I thought it couldn't get any better, there was a slightly darker one just a few feet away that I absolutely had to bring home with me. Also, if you ever want to refresh a secondhand rug without paying for the professional cleaning, you can start with a pet hair removal brush. This is great for lifting embedded hair and dust from the fibers. Then you can follow up with a portable carpet cleaner, or in my case, a pet stain remover. And this is just to make sure it's fully refreshed and ready for use. Rugs this size are perfect for adding a cozy layer to those smaller spaces around your home. I especially love how this one looks in front of our fireplace. It instantly softens the room and adds that cottage warmth that feels so cozy. And when you're thrifting for vintage pieces, remember that Cottagecore is all about layering. After bringing in those deeper and warmer elements, mixing in vintage touches like etched glass and silver is going to create reflection and softness. This vintage glass ice bucket was tucked away on the top shelf, and I couldn't get over how delicate the detailing was. The transparency and fine etching give it such an elegant heirloom quality. To add another layer, I paired it with some thrifted silver cutlery. Now, I'm personally not fussy with having a perfectly matched set, so I've thrifted a few pieces here and there. And while I usually love a bit of patina, sometimes you'll come across pieces that are a little too far gone. A few of these had turned noticeably darker than the rest of the set, and a couple had some not so pretty black spots. In these cases, a little silver polish goes a long way. I'm just using Wright's silver cream, which I'll link below, and gently buffing the outliers so they have the same vintage sheen as the rest of the set.
Folks, you're in camera.
And in my opinion, even mismatched silver can still look cohesive, especially when the pieces are a similar size and shape. Paired with the ice bucket, this cottage heirloom moment really comes to life. The glass and the silver play so well off of each other, and together they add the perfect cottagecore sparkle to my space. And speaking of sparkle, I'm still regretting putting this beautiful silver candlestick holder back on the shelf. I didn't feel like pushing a cart around that day, but it definitely cost me because of course 10 minutes later someone had already snatched it. Now luckily I didn't make the same mistake here. There was a goldmine of these beautiful crystal dark glasses which are actually quite sought after on today's vintage market. A small set of 4 can cost a pretty penny online, and I managed to get all 10 for just $30. I've already styled them in so many ways, and later I'll show you how I incorporated them into my cottage tablescape, so stick around.
This is really cute. I just wish it had the other 2 missing pieces.
So let's talk about the emotional side of cottagecore. What truly makes this aesthetic feel romantic are the soft, delicate details layered throughout a space. Think florals, ruffles, lace, embroidery, woven baskets, and even nature-inspired prints. Patterns like gingham and toile also play a big role. Now the cheerful giver is a little further out for me, but you really can't beat their prices. Last week I came across so many beautiful textiles and lace. And speaking of lace, this entire strip of trim was only 50 cents. Lace is probably one of the most romantic fabrics when it comes to cottagecore, whether it's layered over a table, tucked into a basket, or even used in subtle ways. It instantly softens the look of pretty much anything and just adds that extra romantic layer to a space. And speaking of romantic layers, how stunning is this ornate floral needle print? What makes it even more special is the dated handwritten note from the original maker on the back. Floral needlework is such a staple in cottagecore because it reflects slow craftsmanship and domestic artistry. And unlike mass-produced decor, pieces like this carry visible evidence of time and care, instantly making a space feel more intimate and storied. And on that floral note, I couldn't get over the beautiful embroidery on this ruffled pillow. The subtle stitching gives it such a humble and feminine feel, and it looks like it could have been part of a vintage bed set. Also, look at these adorable his and her pillowcases, still in their original packaging. I honestly felt like I'd struck gold that day because there were so many beautiful textiles and all sorts of other romantic pieces that just exuded cottagecore. And of course, I couldn't leave without these beautiful, never-used white lace napkins that I knew would be perfect for my cottage tablescape. To add a little extra charm and romance, I cut a few strands from another piece of thrifted lace and tied them around the napkins. Now for this tablescape, I'm envisioning a cozy cottage-style Sunday brunch. Picture a little Eggs Benny action with tea and orange juice. I'm also using all thrifted items except for the placemats, which were a souvenir from out east. Let me know if you recognize anything from my past thrift hauls. And perhaps the most compelling part of cottagecore is the storytelling. It's not just about the objects themselves, but the little moments they suggest. And maybe that's the magic of thrifting, giving these pieces a second life so they can become part of our own stories.
As always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy thrifting!